it's also interesting to hear, there's so many different processes, like writers doing so many different ways. So maybe we can get into a little bit of that. Like, what's your process look like when you start a
Yeah.
book, or, you know?
Well, and I feel the same. I do get intimidated sometimes when I hear that like I think Christopher Rocchio that did the Sun Eater had like for his books will do like, a 60-page outline, and I am not that way at all. Whereas then you have other people that just are very successful authors and write just on the whim. And I feel like I'm a good in between. Um so people will ask me like, do you know how your series is going to end? Yes. Do I know everything that's going to happen? No. So I refer to it as like a skeleton. Book two, I have pretty much outlined. I know all the events that need to happen, and anything that might show up if I'm writing, I'm completely willing to change it. Um, but like that's how I said. Like I have six significant events set up. Between each POV character, I'll set up what their next, like right as I finish one chapter, I'll go jump down the outline, write what needs to happen in their next chapter, and then down at the bottom I have what needs to happen in that book. But I've noticed that I like that a lot more than just straight hard outlining, because most of my favorite things that I've written have just come up while on the whim. I'm just in the middle of writing, like, oh, this will be good, just crazy good inspiration coming, and that's generally my approach. I'll be thinking kind of about the story all day, and if I have something that I think needs to happen in there, I'll go throw it in there, and that's pretty much it. Skeleton outline.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when I first started, I just wrote because I like didn't have a clue what I was doing even at all. And then I eventually kind of hard pivoted into like heavy outlining.
Hmm.
Then I've decided I've kind of landed somewhere in the middle. Like, so I kind of I'll write a lot, get stuck, then I'll outline, then I'll get stuck, and then I'll write, and then I'll, like, it's kind of a
Hmm.
circular thing. I do think it helps to know where you're going. Like if you kind of know what the ending is,
Yeah.
you want that to be. So so you're obviously writing a series. Do you kind of know what the ending of the series is, or do you just have the ending of the next book? Like, do you have like kind of a
Yeah.
micro and a macro outline?
Yeah, so I've got a little both. So book two, I have outlines, you could say, as far as I will outline that I know all the things that will happen. Um, Individual events are still yet to come in there. And then I'm doing a trilogy. So the end of book three, I know how the series is going to end. I've known since I finished book one what that needs to be. But that's definitely changed as the series has gone on. So the individual events that happen in book three are more so like there are things that I need to reveal that I might reveal at the end of book two, might reveal at like the start of book three. It's just subject to how much ground I cover. So it's more so like you said, just I know what needs to happen in the end. Things leading up, those are dependent on how everything else goes.
Yeah, for sure. Do you kind of go with your outlining? Do you tend to be a little more world building focused, character focused? Like, there's some people who it's like they can follow their character all the way through, but then there's other, like especially in fantasy, I'm more of a world builder, so like I kind of built a world and then I
Hmm.
started placing characters within that. So how do you kind of approach, like, where did the idea kind of come from? Was it more of a character thing, more of a world building thing?
Yeah, so definitely beginning with Sanderson as an inspiration, I think I went world building first. And it's kind of turned more to where I feel more comfortable in my world now. I know a lot of people that um, read my first novel might struggle as they do with like Malazan or Stormlight, where it's a complex world. There's a lot to it.
Mhm.
But once you get in it, you're comfortable. And that's where I hope my readers are at this point, that I've given a lot more focus on my characters. And it's something I've definitely developed as I've grown as an author. Um, I know people really like my novella a lot because it is focused on a single character, and there's a lot of emotion in him, even though it's like, 100 pages. Whereas the other one definitely more like focused on the society and a plot. Um, but this one I think definitely shifts a little more towards character, but it's just a big balance. I'll
Mhm.
be going, I'll outline based on character journeys that they need to do, but in there I'll note significant world building things that have to be addressed by certain people.
Mhm.
So like when I say the big events that I know need to happen at the end of the world story, those are more world building related. Those are related to the plot overall and not individual characters. So it's all about weaving in these characters' stories to meet that big end pinnacle.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, obviously I think characters you have to have characters that people care about first and foremost. But especially for fantasy, to me, like you can't slouch on the world building because in a sense the world building is a character in its own
Hmm.
right, Um so I think, I don't know. I always start I love the world building aspect. I love, cultures and creating all that kind of stuff. So that's always just fun for me.
Well, I agree, and I think that that's what really draws me to Brandon Sanderson because I like having like this knowledge of like such deep lore that you can dig into, or Malazan where it's like so deep and heavy, but there's like so much about there.
Hmm.
Whereas Joe Abercrombie, that's become one of my favorite authors, and I've learned to like him, is so much more focused on character that when people, if I have a friend reading it, I don't even, if they have questions about the world, it's like you don't need to worry about it.
Yeah.
It's about the characters themselves, and I think that that's just something that um, readers need to realize when they're going to read a book. They just have to kind of see what the author's going for. Um, I can be, just like you. I am a big world building fan, but it doesn't mean I can't enjoy a character focused book.
Hmm.
And I think that it kind of gives me appreciation for, like you said, the world as a character. It is something that when an author gives a lot of attention to, it makes the world feel so much more real and immersive. And I think once you grasp it, a lot more comfortable with the story in total.
Yeah, for sure.